It's Divas That Care Radio. Stories, strategies, and ideas to inspire positive change. Welcome to Divas That Care, a network of women committed to making our world a better place for everyone. This is a global movement for women, by women, engaged in a collaborative effort to create a better world for future generations. To find out more about the movement, visit divasthatcare.com after the show. Right now, though, stay tuned for another jolt of inspiration.
Welcome, everyone, to the Divas That Care Network. I'm your host, Amy McKenzie. Today's show, The Wow of Women, features the remarkable journeys of women whose powerful and extraordinary choices positively impact other people's lives. So I'm very excited to introduce you to Jonice Ward today. Let me tell you a little bit about her before I bring her over. Jonice graduated from Boston College in 2013 and is currently attending NYU, focusing her studies in the realm of child health and lactation. She has been privileged to train as a postpartum doula, newborn care specialist, CPR AED first aid instructor, and values partnering with diverse families to support each individual dynamic. Her organization that she started, which we'll hear more about, Illy.Inc., is a New York City-based care coalition that allows her to further her passion for partnership as they strive to bring communities together through service. Such a great program. In the coming years, Jonice hopes to continue to mobilize Illy to capture the needs of more underprivileged communities, both domestically and internationally. What an incredible commitment you have, Jonice. Thank you so much for joining us on the show today. Welcome.
Thank you for having me. Good morning.
Yes, you have absolutely. For someone who's still in their studies, you have a lot going on in the world, which just goes to show age doesn't have to be a reason to wait. You obviously haven't let it stop you. You're already in action with what you're committed to. So I just wanted to start off by saying I'm really impressed, young lady. That's really something. And,
Thank you
if you would, let's maybe just, yes, absolutely. Let's start with a little bit of your background to just kind of give us, where you're coming from, that you would have such a perspective. I mean, what was your growing up situation, your environment like?
I think really the pivotal moment was, my mom, she was an accountant, and my dad worked for IBM as an engineer. And early on, when I was about 7 years old, they both quit their jobs, and my dad went into the ministry, and my mom decided to, quit her accounting job and really support him, and later opened up a daycare center in our church. And, I had a solid family background. I had my two parents. I have a huge family that is extremely supportive, but a lot of the children in our neighborhood and from our church that were kind of the fundamental piece of this daycare didn't always have that. They weren't always coming from two-parent households or, having supportive family members with them all the time. Some parents were single-family homes or they had to work a lot. So I think that really, catapulted my desire to, want to serve as well, as my parents were, just forcing me into this realm of service very early on. So I think that's where
that's
it was
so great.
from.
Yeah, well, and I have to say, I just really am impressed. It's not often that I have seen, at least, where someone really has had that kind of support, where it even occurs to them that someone else might need their help, or that someone else didn't have it as good, and that they could actually make a difference that way. So obviously kudos to your parents for doing a great job, but also to you that you took it upon yourself to say, wow, these children that I'm helping here aren't set up like I was. What can I do to make a difference in their life? And that's unusual to start off so young in life with a commitment to be in service. So you're clearly a remarkable young lady.
Thank you.
So, yeah. So now, take me now to the place where you started to see, being out there and working kind of one at a time with families is meaningful. Obviously, each child makes a difference, and that's great. But somewhere along the line, you obviously got the idea to try to expand and help more people. And I presume that's how did ILY come about for you? Which is ILY,
exactly,
correct?
Yes,
Yeah,
it's ILY. It actually stands for I love you. And that's exactly how it came up. Yeah. Yeah, ILY, it's an acronym, but I like to say ILY because I just like how that sounds. But it did just come about because I personally started off working with individual families, doing child care, babysitting, nannying. When I was younger, I hadn't done the doula training. So as I worked with a lot of families, there came a point where I started school and I was getting a little bit busy. And, so sometimes I would be like, I can't, babysit tonight. And unfortunately, they would have to find somebody else. And sometimes it would be a great experience for them. I'm not going to say that I was the best, but, sometimes there were little pros and cons that came back, that they saw in the individual that they had to hire, where there was just a lack of communication, I think, from both parts. The family had gotten used to one thing, and the provider that was there, they couldn't read their mind, so they didn't know. So when I heard about that kind of discord, I was like, why can't I start an organization where I can try to reach both the family and what they need and what they expect, and then in turn reach the provider? Because, as a nanny myself, there are tons of things that I expect from families that families just don't know about all the time. So I thought, why don't we just bring these two worlds together and really try to access the both of their needs? So that's kind of why it
What a great
came
idea.
about.
Yeah, so you really, that's a problem solver right there, boy. I had to use nanny services in my career, and honestly, that was never part of the conversation. What are your personal likes and dislikes? What is the child's personal likes? Now, someone who was really good at their job, might ask, and someone who's really paying attention might provide a list of some kind. But it's still not the same as starting off on the same page and getting to select people based on how they were connected. So it's sort of like the dating service, only for families and nannies. And how important is that? I mean, my goodness, it's like one of the most critical points. The first time you put your child in someone else's care, it can alter their lives, what kind of input they receive if it's not down the track that you would want your child to go. Or, I didn't give my child any sugar, and this one of these first nannies didn't understand that, like, store-bought yogurt is full of sugar. Now, not anymore. You can get really good stuff now, but in those days, it wasn't available. And, my daughter didn't keep it down, and I was pretty upset because, like, no sugar, none, no white cane. And it's, it's like that kind of thing. Of this girl was young, she didn't know, we couldn't really be mad at her because but it's yogurt, it's not dessert, right? So there's like those kinds of things where I could really see your communication system is really needed, isn't it? So talk to me about how you've seen that start to play out and the difference it's making.
Yeah, exactly. That is exactly it. When you talk about sugar and how, one of your family values was to keep it out, that's what we asked during the family intake. We asked them, do you have a specific diet? We asked them to label 3 characteristics that they really want to find in a caregiver. So, and we want to be specific. Like, a lot of them come in and they just say loving and kind and energetic, and that's great. But I really, everybody that I hire, I have to say, is loving and kind and energetic. But it's really about what that means to your particular family. So one family might mean energetic is that you play the piano. Another family is, I want them outside and I want them to play soccer. So I really want to hone in on what that means to your family dynamic. And then I go to the provider, and this is during their hiring stage. When I hire them, I'm asking them, what are your values? Do you want to, live in with a family? Are you able to envision yourself doing that? Do you need structure? Do you need set hours? And I really do believe that every provider should have set hours. But, there are some providers that want to be part of a family dynamic, and I want to make that happen for them. While there are others that they have their own family at home and they need more of a separation. So those are the conversations that I really want to flesh out going into it before I pair a family and a provider together.
Such care is taken. So now, obviously, the impact that someone can have on a young child is can be huge. And so I think that, matching people up personality-wise as well as expectation-wise is really meaningful. And, of course, what kind of input you want that child hopefully to be having. Like you say, you play piano, great. We love music. We want music around all the time or what have you. You can even, I think, probably get specific, right, with the kind of things you'd like your child exposed to. Is that part of it?
Yeah, exactly. What is the child already into, and how can we further their growth, to find something? And then we try to match the providers, based on what they're interested in. If your child is playing piano, then why not? We can find somebody that also plays the piano,
Right, yeah, further that interest based on what the child is interested in, not what you want to put into them. Yeah, that's great. All right, now let's switch gears a little bit. On the other side of the fence, as we age, some of us will need some support. Does this include, is that something you're looking at including down the line, perhaps, senior care?
Oh, yeah. So ILI actually does tutoring, child care, senior care, pet care, and home care.
Oh, no kidding. Wow.
Because of COVID-19, we are only focusing on the 3 services being tutoring, child care, and senior care. But, without COVID-19, we would be doing all 5 of those services. Oh,
that's terrific. Okay. So now, I had no idea. That's really comprehensive. That's terrific, because it's certainly just as important for, your aging mother or father or whomever is in your care, to make sure that it's something that they're really comfortable with and that relationship works. Because I've seen what happens when it goes badly. And I would think that for the people that you hire, this must be a real blessing, because they don't get this kind of sort of in-depth concern about their well-being in general that I've ever experienced. Am I right about that?
Yeah, personally, that happened to me multiple times. And, I've been privileged that I've been able to see both sides, as I said before. But, as when I was nannying on my own, just finding families privately, there were a lot of expectations that I had that they just had no idea about. So in New York, where I am localized, where I am currently living, we have a lot of laws surrounding domestic workers. There's overtime after 40 hours, it's time and a half, even if you're on and off the books. And so that's something when you present to a family, they might not know. So, just having, I think, the support of us behind them in terms of the provider to be able to tell them, you need a contract, even if you're on and off the books. You need a contract. You need set hours. You need paid holidays. You need time and a half overtime after 40 hours. You have to have that. And a lot of providers, they don't even know. So, I think they really appreciate.
It hasn't been standard for so long.
Yeah, it hasn't been standardized. Well, they're trying to, but it hasn't. The education isn't there. So not everybody has access to these resources that say what the laws are.
Right. Yeah. So it definitely would empower someone not to be coming in alone, particularly if it's, a gentle, maybe shy person. They're not an experienced negotiator. They could feel pressured, whatnot. I know a friend of mine that was doing senior care, and I think she was very much taken advantage of, but was afraid to lose the job. So never really spoke up to have it, I think, would have been a fair and balanced situation, and there certainly was no contract. So I can definitely see a need for this. And it's interesting that it's gotten so little attention. I mean, this is our children or our parents that we're talking about. It doesn't get any more important than that. You know, and yet there's so much focus on the job world and, you know, so many other things. In fact, even the term nanny doesn't have anywhere near, it's like teachers. You know, these people should be heralded. I love all that's come out on social media during this time period. You know, notice who we couldn't live without during this time. You know, or if we had to live without, notice who we really missed, right? And it's the essential care workers. And this is, to me, it's essential. If you're gonna work out in the world, somebody's got to be there that you trust. So it's really been, it's sort of, you're an undersung hero, if I may say. And I love that you're addressing this.
I agree.
Yeah. So talk to me now. You're also a newborn care specialist, and can help people through postpartum depression. So you know, when you say nanny, people just think you're babysitting. But you actually, when I review your resume, you have a tremendous number of certifications and a wide range of knowledge about child care. Fill us in a little bit about that, because I'm sure that, you know, is part of your thinking that permeates your whole organization in terms of your expectations of the people you bring in to look after these children or adults.
Exactly. That is on point. So I started off with my mom more inside the teaching realm of things, because she had a daycare center during before and after school, and also, you know, children up to 5 would stay with her all day, and then in the summer she had a summer camp. So I was really teaching through there and bringing in what I was learning from school, trying to structure lesson plans for them. And really, that's what a nanny is. When I started out as a babysitter, which is not as much as a nanny does. Now, a nanny is usually with the child all day. They have to plan lesson plans. They have to do the meal prep. They have to do the cooking. And they're really, you know, in charge of the upbringing of this child. Usually the parents are not home. So the nanny is the one that's, you know, really there forming the child's personality and their character. So it's really important for them to be enriched culturally, academically. And that's what I expect when I'm, you know, hiring providers. I expect them to have this educational background and also be culturally aware of, especially the homes that, you know, the families that we have are very diverse. So they need to know how to enter into that home, how to kind of adapt to what the family may be going through. And on the other side, I get the family ready for the provider as well. You know, the providers are diverse as well, and they have their own values. So when we bring these two worlds together, we have to make sure that they are a good fit. And as I was doing my own, incompatible, right. As I was doing my own education and, you know, looking into these jobs for myself, I tried to do all I could to make sure I was well-versed in, you know, the child care field, especially in terms of newborn care, and dealing with both the newborn baby and the mother. There's a lot to learn there. So I made sure I was, you know, trying to take all the classes that I could, you know, get a hold of. And that's what I expect when I hire others. You know, I expect them to really be passionate about this work and to want to learn more and to try to find, you know, anything that they can. I mean, we do provide trainings for them when they are with our program, but I do expect them to take that initiative and find it on their own as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I love that, and it seems to me that you really developed a system. And now my next question is, do you feel that the system that you've created, which is really mindful and accounting for personality development, which is, huge. And that's always the fear I had, was making sure that they were, whoever was with my child was actually furthering them in some way that day, because each day is so important in their development. And I'm just wondering, do you feel with the system that you've created that it's something that is duplicatable, that you could, branch out with this and make it available on a wider scale?
That's the hope. It really is the hope. I'm personally just scared right now. We were only concentrating on New York City, the 5 boroughs. Now we have opened it up to the tri-state area, so also all of New York, New Jersey, Connecticut, parts of Massachusetts are also able to, grasp the services. But the issue with going on to a wider scale is that it's going to be hard to do the initial intakes. So we interview as a team each provider in person. And so, once we open up the scale, we're going to have team members across the country who can have these interviews in person. Right now, because of COVID, we have switched over to video interviews, which is, a new thing for us, and we're trying to adapt, but it's less of a connection that I'm finding that we're getting with these providers. So that's one thing that we're considering as we, push the scale.
Yeah. Well, it's so interesting. So there's, part of the silver lining that does exist in the midst of, some very tragic circumstances for so many people. But it's great that, we have to look to the positive as well as we, bow our heads for those who have really paid a high price during this time. But it's gratifying to know that, there are some really positive things like that coming out of it. Because I think what you're trying to do here is really important, and it really has never gotten the kind of attention that it needs. And I know that there's a lot of quadrants, a lot of people in the country that are really doing everything in their power to upgrade our education and our child care, and, that's great, but it's still in pockets. The fact that you've made it all the way through, the tri-borough and up through the surrounding states is pretty impressive already. Great start you got.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, that's really something. So I wanted to say, bravo, keep going. What does somebody do? Help us have people be able to find you. I know they need to be in that sort of geographic location, unless it's somebody who wants to perhaps be a provider. If they're willing to come to you, I guess they could literally come from Australia. It wouldn't really matter where they came from. If this is, an area where they want to be. Is that right? Everyone's welcome to apply?
True. Yeah. Everybody's welcome to apply. Mm-hmm. Now that, COVID is going on, like I said, we are accepting interviews from anywhere because we're doing webcam video interviews, and we are matching. So you would have to travel to the family, but we can interview you where you are, and we can get the application process started at least. That's terrific. Yeah.
Okay, so tell us, if let's say I'm, somewhere else in the country or right down the street, or maybe even another country as opens up again. What's the process? How do I find you? How would I begin if I wanted to be first a provider and then as a family member? How would I find you?
So providers can go on to our website, www.illyinc.com, and families can as well. There's 2 separate intakes that you can fill out. One for the family, it's a family questionnaire, and then there's a provider kind of application questionnaire as well. Once you fill that out, one of our team members will contact you. On the family side, we have family care specialists, and then on the provider side, we do have application specialists. So each provider is appointed to a specialist that really helps them go through their application and find a family, because, again, we want to make sure it's the right fit. So we're going to learn about the provider, really learn who they are, and complete this application alongside a specialist. And we're going to do the same thing with the family, learn about who they are, complete their intake, and then see if we can find a good match with them. Now, I will say that
That's
you can
terrific.
also find us, thank you, on Facebook and all the social media. We have Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and we just started a LinkedIn page.
Okay. So ILY for ILoveYou.com for the website. And is it ILY on the other social media platforms?
Yes, it is.
That's wonderful. Well, I just think it's terrific what you're doing. Like I said, you guys are unsung heroes because if we don't raise our children right, we know where that leads. And it's all about education and communication, and you are really welding the two together in a very caring, conscientious way. So thank you for the contribution that you're making. And you're so young. I can imagine you'll be international by the time you're my age, I'm sure.
Oh, thank you. And I also
That's
wanted
wonderful,
to
Janice.
invite everybody, because we are going virtual now. We have a lot of virtual programs. One of the programs we have starts on Wednesday. It's an opening event for parents or expecting parents of children under 2. We're trying to come together, especially during this time where there's so much going on, and just talk about what you're going through with parenting, or even just getting ready to bring that child home. And now that there's less support systems from maybe your nanny is no longer present, we want to try to create a community online. So if you can tune in on Wednesday, we're going to be starting a support group. You can reach out to us via the links down www.lilyinc.com, but also our Facebook page is listed up there. So we're just going to be bringing caregivers and parents together to have a support group.
That's terrific.
During this time.
That's great, and that'll be ongoing, I'm sure, because the support is never not needed, even when there is no pandemic. It's always needed. So that's great.
It's always needed.
Yeah, it's always needed. That's terrific. Well, thank you for providing that. And thank you so much for taking the time to join us today. Congratulations on your efforts and for taking, what you saw was a problem that wasn't being solved and coming up with a really great solution. Thank you, Janice.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Oh, it's a pleasure. Now, in closing, I want to thank our remarkable guest. Janice Ward is one of these young women that is really an inspiration. It just goes to show if you see that problem and it's in your heart, you can find a way to address it, just following your passion. And that's what this show is all about. So thank you for joining us today. I want to thank all of our listeners, of course, our producer, the founder of Divas That Care Network, Candace Gish. Candace redefines the word diva to mean a courageously self-assured woman. And sometimes we're not courageously self-assured when we start out, right? As Jonice said, it's a little bit scary sometimes, but she did it anyway. And that's why she's on the show. Every one of us has that capacity. I encourage you all, please join us. This is designed to be a platform for sharing our voice in the world. Visit divasthatcare.com. Hear some more inspiring stories. And who knows, maybe you'll be inspired to add your voice to the conversation. We'd love to have you. All right, for now, signing off. Take care, everyone. Until next time. Bye-bye.
Thanks for listening. This show was brought to you by Divas That Care. Connect with us on Facebook, on Instagram, and of course on divasthatcare.com, where you can subscribe to our newsletter so you don't miss a thing.